All right.
We have launched.
Yes, we have. Welcome, everybody. Planet Green Trees, officially episode 147. We're calling it, what are we calling it?
Marijuana and Driving Show.
That's right. We've got a very exciting show. We've got an outstanding studio audience standing by to add to the conversation. Of course, you'll listen to Planet Green Trees. Today's date is May the 9th, 2013. Call number is 1-347-326-9626. If you want to get on the air, please dial 1 and your name will appear in the queue. Tonight, we're going to be joined by attorney for the decriminalization in Grand Rapids, Jack Hoffman. He's going to be on to discuss the recent developments in Grand Rapids. They've had some struggles with the implementation of that law. That's surprising. In Michigan, that's strange. Something like that would be happening. Also, from the Marijuana Policy Project, and one of the instrumental figures in the successful legalization effort in Colorado, Mason Tvert. He'll be joining us to discuss the new driving laws and the implementation of that of the legalization in Colorado. That's why we're calling it the medical marijuana and driving. Charmie's in the studio. Charmie Gholson from Michigan Mothers United. Michigan Moms United. Of course, gets the kudos for booking Mason, who spoke as the anchor at the Hash Bash. And I'm sure we're going to hear a lot from him, and we're excited that he's going to be on the show. And this issue about driving is something that I'm going to talk about, and I think we should discuss thoroughly tonight so people have an understanding of it, at least from the local perspective. We have been doing a weekly spotlight on different organizations throughout the state and nationally. This week we are going to be spotlighting the Human Solutions and Michigan's Moms United. Steve Green will be calling in, and we do have, as I mentioned, Charmie Gholson, founder of Michigan Moms United studio. Contributing to tonight's show, as always, Rick Thompson, Compassion Chronicles. Rick, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Editor-in-Chief, and also Charmie Lowell from Third Coast Compassion. Welcome. And, of course, Jamie is responsible for booking all the great guests. In fact, anyone that listened to the show last week, which weren't many because I noticed that our archive listeners are way down, please encourage your friends to listen to the show. A lot of good information. But somewhere in the very well organized and technical, well-produced show, someone made a request because of the issues regarding driving that we get Mason Tvert on, and sure enough, Jamie produced him. So
Jamie produced him? That would have been an odd birthing.
Produced him for the show tonight. Anyway, so we've got a lot of great information we're going to be bringing to you in episode 147. I'm going to rant in a little while. We're going to have some news, current events, and much, much more. Tonight's show, sponsored by Komorn Law, 1-800-656-3557. And, of course, the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association, michiganmedicalmarijuana.org. I want to thank all the moderators and administrators who assist in keeping that forum and the site a safe and comfortable place for people to evolve the conversation about medical cannabis and cannabis reform. I want to give a big shout-out to our good friend Kevin Spittler from Ostemo, Michigan. Condolences also. I know Kevin recently lost his father, and our prayers and best wishes are with him for comfort for his family. Did I cover everybody? I think so. All right, so we got all kinds of stuff going on, and we're going to be discussing this decrim driving and various organizations. I'm going to do a little bit of a rant right now. Specifically the issue of jury selection. And an experience that I had last week when I picked a jury, I wrote a little thing about it, and it's had some weird reactions. And I found it kind of interesting because and I wanted to discuss it. What the point I was trying to make. First of all, as a lawyer, who's participating in the system, the jury is the most fundamental part of the entire system, because no matter what the judge is doing and the prosecutor is saying, the jury is the place by which the truth will be told. That's always something that is unique to our criminal justice system. There's all kinds of conflict in business and law and criminal law, and this witness said this and this witness said that, but when the jury speaks, they speak the absolute truth. And just for that moment in time when, as we say, we are living life in a search for the truth is spoken, and disputes are resolved by answers that are given and dictated by the jury. So it is, for a number of different reasons, it's a fundamental process and part of our democracy. And during the jury selection, it's important for the lawyers, or something that I take to task, is letting the jurors know how important it is. That, if it wasn't for the jurors, we wouldn't have a system, a place to go to even appeal to the senses of the community to see things differently, and to not allow the principles that just because a police officer, just because a prosecutor says it is so, or the government says it is so, it doesn't mean that it's so, and the jury speaks the truth as to whether or not they agree with the government. Anyways, so as it goes, and I've picked juries from 20 years practicing law, and in marijuana cases, pre-medical marijuana, there was always the situation, which I found interesting, when the judge will, during the jury voir dire, which is the selection of the jury, it's a part you don't usually see on TV, and it gives the attorneys an opportunity to talk directly to the prospective jurors. And the process is to try to determine, the voir dire process, whether or not the jurors can be fair, that they can put aside their predisposed opinions on their friends or however they view the world, and listen to the facts as they come through the witness stand, and listen to the law that the court's going to give them and instruct them, and going back and deliberate and be fair. And there's specific questions that are always addressed. For example, prospective juror, do you have anyone in your family who's in the law enforcement community? Do you have any friends or best friends that are law enforcement officers? Why are they asking this? Because they want to extrapolate from this prospective juror whether their relationship is going to affect their ability to come in as a tabula rasa into the case, and not let what their buddy, their neighbor who's a police officer, tell them about how bad it is out there, and how we really got to start locking people up, or whatever it may be. And inevitably there's always that situation. Usually there's a juror that knows or is involved with someone in law enforcement. Another question that's often asked is, have you been a victim of a crime? How did the prosecutor, the police handle it? Do you have any biases towards them because of that? Did they handle it appropriately? Did they catch the guy, or what have you? If someone's been arrested, they'll usually get kicked, but they'll at least pretend to care whether or not they have been had a negative experience and can put it out of their mind. But amongst other things, one of the questions that will be asked to the jury, as I've mentioned, is that they'll discuss what this case is about. If it's a drunk driving case, ladies and gentlemen, is anyone that has an issue about drunk driving that could not be fair in this case because of their views on alcohol? In the case that was picked before ours, one of the women raised her hand and said, I've been an active member in MAD for 20 years, and I just don't think, knowing what I know, I can be fair. And, not in for what they call cause, the judge allowed her to leave because there was no way that she was going to be able to be fair. Now, in marijuana cases, even pre-medical marijuana, there was always the questions that would be asked to the jurors. Is there anything about this case, because it's a marijuana case, that you could not be fair, prospective jurors? And oftentimes hands would go up. Usually, prospectively 40, 50% of the prospective jurors are the ones that have been called from the jury pool up into the jury box. And, 3, 4, 5 of them would raise their hands and say, I could never convict for marijuana. I just think it should be legal. It's ridiculous. The war on drugs is a failure. We waste a ton of money. And I'm sitting there thinking, this is great that everybody's hearing it, but yes, I want you to be on my jury. And because of the fact that they had made it so clear that under no circumstances could they be fair, and I would always try to get up and rehabilitate them. I'm like, wait a second. You're telling me if the judge instructs you to follow the law and you take an oath to follow the law that you're not going to be able to do that? That's really the question. Because the same questions are asked to try to rehabilitate the jurors when the wife of the police chief for 40 years has been married. It comes in and, I've been married to a police chief, and I've sat at the table dinner when he comes home and listened to his stories over and over and over again. It's not a very, imagine, an objective story. It's from his perspective, and he's probably slanted things, and this is the way that she knows it. But if asked a question, she's a law enforcement mentality. She's going to say, if you instruct me, Judge, I'm going to do everything I can to be fair, and blah, blah, blah. So, as I've sat there in pre-medical marijuana cases, and in this experience in this jury last week in Livingston County, sure enough, people called from the jury pool into the jury box. And what was interesting about this is me and my client had gone through the jury questionnaires. When you pick a jury, you're given a list of names, in numbers that coincide with the juror, and then there's an equivalent sheet that they filled out that gives you a little bit of information about their age, what their job is, what their wife, if they have one, does, and they're retired, and some other history and stuff. And we'd gone through those and picked out about 2 or 3 that seemingly, because of whatever our beliefs were in the ideal jury for this case, would be good for the type of case that we had, which was a medical marijuana case. And when those individuals got called into the jury box and they gave their version of things, one of them was a patient, and the other one didn't say much at first, but once the patient spoke up and said, you know what, I'm a patient, there's no way I could ever find anyone guilty of medical marijuana, the other person that we had pre-chosen as one of the desirables also raised his hand and said, there's no way I could be fair. And again, I got up and tried to rehabilitate. I'm like, wait a second. You're telling me that if the court instructs you to follow the law, that you're not going to be able to do that? There's no way I could do that. The war on drugs, the war on marijuana is ridiculous. And both of them were excused. And, it bothered me because the focus of what was happening here was so arguably selfish, really. The goal is that I understand nobody really wants to be on a jury. It's a pain. My joke to jurors are, by raising your hands, ladies and gentlemen, who was excited when they received the subpoena directing you to show up for jury duty? Please raise your hand. No one ever raises their hand. Because it's a pain. You got to take time off of work and whatever your life's about, whatever pace is going on, you are now subject to the pace of this insane judicial system that we have. But it is through the jury system that we've been given the opportunity to bring about change. I talk about it every week on the show. It would be nice if some of the persons who may believe in principle that marijuana should be legal could have enough common sense and reasonableness to say to the juror, to the judge, that their personal opinion doesn't matter and that they know that their duty as an American citizen to show up and try to be fair and serve as a juror. And when you get in the jury room, you decide what's guilt and what's not guilt, because at the end of the day, it is the jury that decides justice. And in the world that we're living in right now, especially in situations where we've got a small group of persons who are in the minority that are fighting medical marijuana, finding loopholes to arrest people for forfeiture claims, looking for ways to drag people into the criminal justice system. We need reasonable minds in the jury of people that can be fair and listen to the facts. That's all we're asking for. Don't take yourself out of it. You should want to be part of this change that is going on. And if the prosecutor doesn't prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt, you should return a verdict of not guilty. But the point is, don't shy away from it and participate in the jury system and be part of some of this change that's taking place. As I say, week after week, the tools that have been given to us, albeit all of this should have been on the front end of Section 4, protecting people from arrest and prosecution, and that's been the failed implementation of the law. We do have this unbelievable affirmative defense that is designed to be played out in front of a jury. And I'm of the belief, and it's ultimately going to be a social experiment in a lot of cases, that when juries hear these cases and hear the ridiculous reasons by which law enforcement has made a criminal case, they're going to go in the back and deliberate and say to themselves, didn't we pass a law in 2008, 2009 about medical marijuana? Why are we here? Why did I have to take 3 days off of work to listen to this stuff about some nonsense when everybody seems to have a card here and seemingly everyone's a patient and there's no dispensaries allowed, and where else do they expect them to get it from? These are sick people, and they're going to be appalled. The point is, don't shy away from it. I know people don't want to take the time off, but do your civic duty. Participate in the system, and don't take yourself out. Don't jeopardize a marijuana case because of your reasonableness and your inability to put your principles aside. Participate and help bring about justice as you know it. And that's an opportunity you have, and I'm suggesting everyone take advantage of it. All right, that's the rant for now. We're going to take a break and come back and get right into it. You'll listen to Planet Green Trees, episode 147.